Welcome back to the 12-month video game repair challenge. This is episode 10. Let me go over the self-imposed rules real quickly and then I'll jump into some repairs. First off, no debt. I start with $0 and I need to repair and sell items that I already have to make enough money to buy new parts and new items to fix. The goal is $10,000 in sales by the time I'm done too. Number 2 is I have a maximum of 7 hours a week to do any testing and repairs. Number 3 is there's no cost for supplies and tools I already own. And number 4 is to share everything. One summary video each month until the 12 months are done. First up is some PS1 Slim consoles. Alright, I'm testing up these PS1 Slims and power's on, but yeah, it's got a little problem there. So, see if I can get it to, oh yeah, that sounds great. Hey. Well, at least it turns on, but I guarantee you there's gonna be some other problem. All right, just wait until you hear this. This is great. Oh yeah. It sounds like it's eating the disc. It's awful. And as one would expect, it fails to read the disc. All right, this one at least turns on, but when you try to close the lid to get it to spin, it just kind of shuts off. So, most likely this is a laser issue, just because it can't read the disc or something like that. So, we'll open it up, take a look. I have a replacement disk drive for these Slims, so I'm going to swap that in to see how it goes first. Well, surprise, surprise, it didn't work. I checked and adjusted the pot settings on each of these drives and made sure they're in the proper range before reinstalling and testing again. This of course didn't work either, and I spent over an hour adjusting and readjusting these pots again and again without any positive effect at all. I fixed the power issues on one of the units by heating up the solder joints on the bottom of the board, so at least that did something, but I'm pretty sure none of these replacement units work very well. Alright, I fixed the restarting issue because it had that cracked solder joint. Now, no problems. You can see that the light there is staying on, and this unit is just on, no problems whatsoever. But the disk drive, or the disk laser in particular, still isn't working. I adjusted the potentiometer on this one, still nothing. I swapped in my other one, but it's still not working at all whatsoever. But it has an interesting problem that I just wanted to share with everybody, is when you actually close the lid here and it boots or attempts to boot, it'll just restart. Or maybe not. Now it won't. But it's interesting that, oh, there it goes. So every time I attempt to close the lid and actually boot a disk, it'll just restart the console. So there must be something wrong with the laser in particular. This is an aftermarket one. I've had a bunch of issues with this one. I've adjusted the potentiometer. Nothing happened whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this one's just trash. So I don't really see any issues on the board whatsoever. So my guess is this probably just requires a new laser, because this one's not working either, and it has a really grindy noise on this middle section here, so on the spindle. So it's probably just bad, but just an interesting thing to note, that if you guys ever run into a PS1 that just continually reboots, it may be the laser that's causing the issue. Because on my other one that had the exact same issues that, like this one, I swapped this same assembly in and it did the exact same thing, that every time you load a disk or attempt to load a disk, it'll just restart the console. So too bad both of these are non-working, but interesting to find a different problem with some of the newer units here. Ultimately, I abandoned these and added them to the scrap pile. Alright, just got in a few more packages. Let me open them up and show you what's inside. Alright, I kind of already opened this one because I didn't know what it was, and I needed a few more rubber bands for the disk drives on Xbox units. I also picked up another Game Gear for repair. It's missing its battery covers, but that doesn't matter because this one is really rough. It's got a lot of scuffs and scratches, so I don't even know if I'm going to use this housing. I just needed a replacement motherboard for one of the blue Sega Game Gears that I have upstairs. So this one is probably going to end up getting used for that if the screen is in good shape. Now these, I have a Super Nintendo Junior, or Mini, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really turn on. I saw this on console 5, and I'm going to try it out. I want to see if that maybe will get it working. I cannot find anything wrong with it whatsoever, and that's one of the reasons why it was in my random bin of stuff, is I just put it off to the side, maybe use it for spare parts. But I saw this. I'm wondering if that would fix it. Picked up a few more Xbox disk drive cap kits, just to have them on hand. I do have a few more Model B Samsung units that can be swapped out, so I'm hoping this would fix a few of those. We'll see. And then last but not least, I got a Game Boy Pocket recently that had a messed up screen and messed up buttons, and I haven't even tested it honestly, but it needed those new buttons and everything, so I figured why not buy a kit, because you really can't find just these buttons here. So I'm probably just going to swap out the shell completely. I think this also has stickers in it and everything for the back, so this will be a short project for this month as well. Alright, I've had this Super Nintendo unit for a very long time, and I've done a bunch of different tests. Tested a whole bunch of different things on here, tested the different pieces of the pin here, and it just doesn't seem like it does really anything. One problem though is you can't tell if it's necessarily turned on because it doesn't have a light on the front like the regular, since this is the Junior. But I'm pretty sure it does turn on. I'm 99.99% sure that it is turning on. It's just not displaying anything. So I'm going to take this thing apart, take apart all of these capacitors up here, take a look, see if there's anything else that needs to get replaced underneath this, and use this fancy little kit that came from console 5 to replace all those. I already had this unit mostly disassembled, so getting at the caps wasn't too difficult. They're all in a row at the back of the board, so it was a pretty simple process to swap them out too. The kit gives you a few extra caps that go in the other versions of the system, and I didn't end up needing 2 of them at all. I reassembled the entire unit and went to test it out, and nothing. It does look like it's attempting to turn on because the screen goes black, but still nothing. Maybe it's an issue with the AV connections, or maybe one of the chips on the board. I'm not sure, but it's going to go back in the scrap bin for now, so I can move on to another old unit that's been hanging around. This is an ugly looking console that came with the Genesis units that I worked on in episode 3. These came out of a barn, and they're doing a great job looking the part of it too. I couldn't even get this unit to turn on when I first tested it, so I'm going to give it a good cleaning first and see if that allows some workingness to happen. This whole board is nasty, so giving it a scrub down with IPA first is number 1 on the list. It helped to break up some of the dirt, but the cartridge slot is still pretty bad yet. I went through a lot of Q-tips, but the board was looking a lot more normal afterwards. The cartridge slot still needs a lot more love though. I used whatever tools I had and cleaned out the big debris, and then started working on polishing up the pins on the top and the bottom. The fiberglass pen worked well, but it took a bit to get it looking better. I finished it out by doing another scrub down of IPA and started reinstalling everything. I knocked the rust off a few more parts and managed to destroy the ribbon cable for the controller ports when I was cleaning it too. It was probably already failing, but I can't seem to find a drop-in replacement for that cable anywhere online. If anyone knows where to get one, be sure to leave a comment down below. I didn't bother cleaning the insides yet, since I wanted to see if this unit could get working first and pop the board in to test it out. Alright, let's do a quick test, see if this thing even turns on. I did not want to test it with it being so dirty and nasty. I just figured, why not do a quick clean and see what happens. Alright, here we go. Oh! What? Well, colors are a little off, but it turns on, so that's good. So I was just looking up a few schematics on this unit in particular, and it said that if you adjust this little screw in the front here, this potentiometer, that actually adjusts the color. But on this one, I tried it, didn't do anything. But I kind of did a couple other poking around. I found out that the red, green, blue signals come off of this chip and they go to this chip, which is like a video encoder. Yeah, so you see that chip there? Just so happens that chip has a lot of corrosion and rust on it. So I'm wondering if potentially it's got some other issues with it and it just needs to be cleaned. So I'm going to clean it up. Hopefully that'll fix it. I gave this a quick scrub as well and tested it out again. Alright, so it didn't really seem like it did anything. So it's still blue, and it'll switch between blue and black and white. But I've noticed if I put a screwdriver in here and tap it, never mind the artifacts, but it'll switch the color schemes. So I'm wondering if potentially that crystal went bad. I ended up ordering a crystal, and while I was waiting for that, I figured why not just keep going on the Super NES units. I have a quick fix tutorial about this unit already that you can check out here, but this one has a bad motherboard fuse. You can pick these up from many places online for pretty cheap, and I bought a pack of 10 of these a while ago. But basically, if the consoles are not turning on and you know the power supply is good, test the mainboard fuse to see if it is blown. If it has, just swap it with one of these new versions and you're good to go. Another one fixed. Continuing with the SNES theme, I'm running low on these controllers, so let's see about fixing a few of those too. First is from the barn find, and I can't even get it open. The screw is badly stripped out, and it looks just like the console. I'm gonna call this one scrap for now. The second one opened up without any issues and really just needed some cleaning. The buttons didn't have very good responses, but they were working. Once I was done, it was working well. On to another Nintendo item. This unit has a big scratch on the front that tore off a chunk of the start button, and that's actually what led me to get a replacement shell in the first place. I found you really can't buy only the start and select button membranes, and the Game Boy Color version that I have plenty of doesn't fit in this shell either. Oh well, new shell it is. I also noticed that the front screen was hot glued in place at one time, and it was missing its battery cover too. Since color matching is not so great, I'm pretty happy I went with a replacement. The shell comes with all the parts needed to complete the Game Boy Pocket, but they just look a little off. The color isn't perfect, so I think I'm just going to use the original buttons and switch parts since they look a little bit better. The label though is pretty spot on, which is nice. I'm going to save and reuse this battery terminal too, since it matches more with what's already on the board. This unit wasn't in terrible shape and really just needed a small facelift and a little cleaning. I dripped some IPA into the volume control wheel and the power switch to work it around, as well as cleaning the rest of the parts around the board too. I typically don't, but I also saved the sticker frame for the LCD. It took a little finagling, but I got it in place and started to reinstall all the clean parts into the new shell. As I did, I ran into a little issue. It wasn't going together nicely, and I found it wasn't designed to be used with old parts. So a little scraping with a hobby knife to widen the space for the switch fixed that right up. The rest of the assembly went really smooth, and it turned out great. Just keep in mind, if you buy an aftermarket shell for your own repairs, you may have to do the same process. Not a huge deal, but something to remember for the future. Also, if you ever need new or replacement PCBs for one of your projects, be sure to check out PCBWay, which is the sponsor of this repair series. PCBWay.com is a printed circuit board manufacturer that provides a wide variety of options for prototyping and assembly. Last month, PCBWay introduced their 7th project design contest. You can submit your own electronic, mechanical, or STM32 projects now through the middle of January. The full project timeline, rules, as well as the prizes are shown on the main design contest page. A huge thank you goes out to PCBWay for all the support this year, and be sure to check out the links in the description. Now to finish up some old business. Alright, I've messed around a couple more times with trying to get these PS2 units to work, and it just sits and says that it's reading the disc, but isn't really doing anything. I've adjusted the potentiometer on the laser a couple times too, and nothing. It won't read CDs and it won't read PS2 games, so, or I should say PS1 and PS2. So I'm gonna call these probably done just because the laser is shot on there, but yeah, at least these are kind of off the table at this point. And some more old business, revisiting these PS2 controller repairs. Last month really did not go so well with these, and I just ended up destroying a few of these controllers. But a wonderful comment from one of my subscribers known as XYAB, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, said to cut the pins off instead of soldering them at all. No hot air, no soldering iron, and no bending them to remove them. My flush cutters aren't very long, so I had to go at it from each side, but this worked great. Thank you for the recommendation. I was able to trim these and went back afterwards to remove the pin parts left over on the board with my iron. This wasn't perfect, and I still had a few issues with the pins starting to pull away from the board, but it was more to do with my tools rather than the technique itself. If you haven't tried this yet, I would highly recommend you do. But after the pins were cleaned up, I tacked down the new connector and slid the new membrane in place. I found it really helped to hook them in place on the front first, then loop them up and around the L1 and R1 0.1 button second. Then seat those membranes in place with the button pads by pushing them down with the long sides of tweezers before reinstalling into the controller shell. And after all that, it works good. No problem whatsoever. All right, so this is probably the third or the fourth one of these that I've been doing, and I tried a different method with this one. I tried taking the old connector and just lifting it up and then using a razor blade to just come around the back and then just cut everything off. And it didn't really, I mean, it worked, but it didn't work great. And I don't know if you can see that underneath, but the pins are kind of bent a little bit. They're kind of bent going this direction to the right a little bit behind the other pins of this connector. It's very difficult to see, but I was able to solder them in. And another thing that I found that was much easier is rather than throwing a bunch of flux directly on here and then just trying to solder them down with excess solder, I just did one by one, just one pin at a time, add the smallest little bit of solder to it, and then move on to the next one. What is putsy is putting the membrane back in place and getting it into this socket. It is just a pain to put it through there. So I don't know if anybody else has a tip that would help with that, but man, that really is the time suck here. All right, a perfect example. So on this side of these pins, I just cut them with a flush cut. And as I got to the middle, my flush cutter is short, so it kind of tops out right here where you can't really get any further than this. So you gotta switch to the opposite side. I switched to the opposite side in order to try it with just doing that with the knife, and it ripped off all the pins. So, note to self, don't just cut them off, or get a very, very sharp knife that you can just push on, or potentially get a flush cutters that is very long so you can get at these here, because going from the opposite side kind of bends them, then it kind of moves them up over here, and it causes a bunch of other issues. So, all right, so here's another interesting one. I've already fixed one of these. You'll notice that this has pressure fittings on either side here, and you can just pull out the old ribbon, which is nice, except for the fact that it has too many pins on it. As you're inserting these, you just move it one pin down and then lock it in position. Then it'll still work. Another little tip that I found here is when you're reassembling as well is pop these out. Pop out both of those buttons. When you're putting these together, they fit snugly in here. If you have these in place, they'll like pull up sometimes and get in the way. Then when you're done reassembling, you can just pop these right back in place, no problem. And they're really easy to pop out. I mean, you just push on the back side and it pops right loose. So it's a really quick, easy thing, but just something that I did in order to expedite this process, because this is already a long process and very tedious to begin with. So another quick tip that I have here is when you're installing these, take a tweezers and just kind of push on either side so that it slots it underneath. Because I've already trimmed these down, and then pop these up on top right away, just to get them over on the top there, and it kind of secures it down, so then you have time to just install this this pin header here. All right, here we go. I got this in there. Now I just need to get these pressure fit pieces down and in place. You'll notice this pin doesn't really match up with anything on this side here. That's because I've slid this entire membrane down so that it matches up with all of the pins on this side. And it's really not going anywhere. I mean, you could tug on this thing, it's not moving. So that is a nice way so that you don't need to replace this header here. So let me go test this one. And hopefully, I believe this might be the last one. All right, final results. I had 5 of these units, and I was able to fix 4 of them. This one is having some issues. I thought maybe the membrane was to blame, so I swapped that out. Still didn't get any response from R1. I swapped out the button membrane, still no response. I cleaned the button membrane, still no response. Checked the circuit board. Circuit board looks completely fine. I reheated the pins just to make sure I didn't have like a bad connection or something like that. Still nothing. So unfortunately, this one is probably dead. Out of the 5 that I was able to do, 4 are working. This one, it is not due to the button membrane though. And I've heard from multiple people, even in comments in a lot of these videos, that said that make sure you buy hundreds of these membranes because they will be bad. There's a 100% chance that you will have bad membranes in the one that you got. I bought 10 total, and literally every single one has worked. I've messed up one membrane because I was testing it in order to get it into this one, so I just threw that one away. But I think all the membranes were good, so that's really interesting. I'll leave a link in the description of the ones that I bought. I bought a pack of 10, and they're working great. So I'm not sure what to tell you. This is the first time that I've ever done this, but happy I revisited this because now I understand the process a little bit better. I still think it would be easier with some hot air, but happy I could do it with just my soldering iron alone. But I netted 4 controllers out of it, and they all look in pretty good shape. Moving on to the next project. All right, here's the next project. So, got this from a rummage sale. Shout out to Hayden for the excellent deal. And this is why. So the cord has a nice cut in it. It is obviously damaged. This plug end is still in really good shape. I have a replacement cord, and it's pretty easy to just solder in. I mean, this has a protector over it. You just take that off, solder it in here, replacement, all set. But I was asking myself, could I take off this outer housing right here, this black housing, and swap it with the orange or spice orange version here? That's what we're going to find out. All right, I've been working at this for about a half hour, and I don't see any feasible way of being able to extract this plastic piece and replace it with the orange version that we have here. So I've taken off the bottom. It doesn't really go anywhere. I even trimmed around the bottom edge to see if I could potentially separate this plastic, but it's not coming apart. This is a molded piece. I thought maybe there was 2 sections based on the pins, divide these little holes here, but that's actually what just attaches it to the metal piece here. So there's really no way of swapping these, unfortunately. So then I took this section apart like this, and I was curious if maybe there was a way that I could flip it off the front by taking out this connector here, and there in the back here, these are a molded component. Everything is molded into this plug-in, so unfortunately this stuff is not coming out. So yeah, I just wasted a few bucks destroying this cord, but at the same time I was very curious and I wanted to know if you could actually swap these. So I'm gonna have to buy another one to use as a replacement for this other spice orange version, but hey, at least now I know, and now all of you know. All right, digging around on my shelf, and I found this. It was an old Xbox 360 model, and I never had a power supply for it, but I recently just found one, and at a church rummage actually, and I picked this one up. It was $1. Threw it in, turned it right on. Now, a long time ago, I had one of these original ones, and I tested this, but the disk tray wouldn't open up. So I just put it on my shelf and left it sit until now. It's nice and dusty, but as you can see, you hit the button and you can hear it trying to work, but it's just not ejecting. So let's fix that. This is an extremely similar process to the original Xbox disk drive bands, and you don't even need to open up the unit to do it either. Pop off a faceplate to insert a paperclip into the eject button and push on the tray gears to slowly eject it. This will take some time, but it will pop out. Then remove the old egg-shaped band and replace it with a new one. I'm using one from the multi-pack kit that I bought on Amazon, and they worked great. They are a little bit thinner than the OEM version, but it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. Alright, got the band swapped, and look at that. Oh, well, there it is. Okay. Maybe it just didn't register. Yep. Got the controller plugged in, and it's running. Excellent. Such an easy fix. Back to some more old business. I figured I'd give the cap swaps on the original Xbox disk drives one more try before putting them to the side. I got in a few more kits earlier in the month and started with this Samsung Model B version. I went really slow and didn't have nearly as many broken traces or other issues, and tested the board between multiple laser sets too. Most of them didn't end up working, but one did, which is great. Now I just need to figure out what to do with the remaining consoles that work well except for their disk drives. I'm exploring some options, but I'll let you know what I come up with. Alright, I just got 2 new boxes of stuff in. What could they be? If you guessed controllers, you would be correct. So I have, I think 17 total original Xbox controllers. This one is the new wireless version. Completely wireless. I mainly bought these because of all of the black S controllers that are mixed in here. There's a couple Xbox 360 controllers here as well, but a good amount of S controllers for bundles, which is great because I need more controllers. I've run out of them. I need to start fixing up a couple more of these. Some of these might be really easy fixes, like thumbsticks, stuff like that, but it's very obvious based on some of these other ones where it's going to need cords, thumbsticks. Some of them might need housings as well. This one's housing is kind of messed up here. It's got some scratches, scuffs, but I have extra housings from those other ones that I couldn't get working that are like a weird coma version of them. They just don't activate whatsoever, so I have replacements. I should be able to get through a good chunk of these and hopefully be able to make a bunch more bundles. Alright, just got another package in. If you guessed that this was going to be more controllers, then you'd be wrong because it's Game Boy Colors. So I bought a couple different lots. This one is particularly interesting because it's actually a grape. It looks almost black because it's so sun faded, but I might need to buy different shells for a few of these, but all of these are non-working in some way. This one, pretty obvious, has a really, really bad screen burn on that thing. But some of these other ones, they just have discolored shells. It looks like it might have some issues there with the inside of the LCD and a very different colored battery cover. But yeah, I used to work on a whole bunch of these. I haven't worked on some of these for a long time, but I figured towards the end of this, if I got through everything, I would end up picking up a couple more Game Boy Colors because I actually really enjoy working on these too. It's a nice little handheld, got great capabilities, great games, and I had a lot of fun working on them the last time, so hopefully I can get some different colors. Hopefully these can be cleaned up a little bit because the shells are only exclusive to Japan, if I remember correctly. And some of these other ones are pretty common shells, same thing with the normal colors. But this shell actually looks pretty good. I might be able to use this one. Just swap out the front and obviously test every one of them, but yeah, we'll get into that at some point. All right, I'm testing controllers, and this is the best one I've ever seen. Look at this. It's broken, it's all smashed, cords all screwed up. These things look like googly eyes, but my favorite part is it won't connect, but it's connected enough to activate the vibration functions. That's crazy. All right, just got through testing all of the controllers. So by far the largest issue is the cord and the sticks. These sticks are pretty good, but there's a whole bunch of them that look like this, or look like this, or look like this. So cords, definitely a big problem with these batches here, but 2 of them actually completely work. They were just missing their cord, their quick disconnect ends, which I'll get a couple of those and then I can get these with the bundles right away. But it's interesting, so out of 17 total controllers, 12 of them had bad cords where visibly either they were missing or I couldn't test them, which is what this one, and this one, and this one are. If they have the blue sticker, that means that I've already tested them and done at least some testing on it. This is the only one that had any sort of drifting. All the rest of these were just cords and sticks. So yeah, it seems like it's a huge problem, but out of the 17, I had 12 of them with busted cords that are going to need to get replaced. I'll put the other totals on the screen someplace here, maybe side by side, because I've had a couple other batches this year of controllers. This one with the googly eyes, it might be completely toast because it is completely shattered, broken. The whole back is cracked, so this one might be totally toast. This one might have been one of those no connections from earlier in the year that I was getting, so I didn't want to cut off the cord prematurely. If it does work, and potentially can get it working, there was something rattling in it, so that could be a problem, but interesting study on broken controllers. And it seems like there's just a lot of them with bad cords and bad thumbsticks, so if you know how to fix those two items, you're pretty much golden for, I don't know, however many percent I'm showing on the screen right now. So let me start with some of the easy stuff just to get those out of the way. And there we go, 4 with brand new cords. And this one, if in case you're wondering why it is green now instead of black, I just took the case or the shell off of the one that was having connection issues, and I found an original cord in my stash, so I figured I'd use that. And now it's more of an original piece here, because the previous shell, the black shell, was completely destroyed and it had a bunch of broken parts inside. So unfortunately I couldn't use it, but that's okay. I still got 3 other ones that I can put with bundles as soon as these are tested again, so great. These are some more easy fixes that I'll run through quickly since I already have videos about stick and cord swaps on the channel. This controller just needed new sticks and it was all good. This one had some drift issues, and before I swap out the potentiometers, I'm going to give it a good cleaning and retest it first. I pulled out one potentiometer and swabbed it with some IPA. Hopefully that does the trick. It also got a new cord added as well. These next 2 I haven't been able to test since they were already missing their cords. So let me fix that quick and see if they have any other issues. Alright, here's some remnants from the first batch that I just tested. The cleaning that I did on this thing just didn't really do anything at all, so I might need to change out that potentiometer or the entire thumbstick if it is a really large problem. This one wasn't tested before because it had a cut cord, and there's no A or B. You need to press really, really hard, so I think I can fix that through just putting that little bit of pencil lead on those locations, and that should be able to register that a little bit more. And ironically, the cord that I was saving for a replacement that seemed good is actually bad. It disconnects all the time, so I need to swap that back out. But not bad for the first little go. Here's a really great one. Untested, and when I opened it up, it had some big beetles inside of it. Great. Alright, these just fell out of a controller. I am 99.99% sure that these are not roaches. These look like just a regular beetle that you'd find outside. But another thing that's really weird is, as I took this apart, there was just a random resistor that just fell out of this controller. I have no idea where it goes on the board, but there it is. Might need to put this back on if I happen to find out where it goes, but maybe it's not even from this one. I have no idea, because it looks like this one was previously open. But yeah, I have no idea why there's random beetles in a controller, but stranger things have been seen apparently. So this is the one with the no connection issues, and I'm really not seeing any problems here with the cord at all. It's not really bent too badly. There's no issues there, but I just noticed something here, right underneath the trigger here. I don't know if you can see this here. There's a resistor that is broken loose from the board right there. So I'm going to take off this trigger and see if there's anything else missing underneath that. Well, it's really obvious what the problem is now. I don't know if you can see this, but there is a giant crack right here. Let's see if I can bend it. You can see that. So this entire board is cracked in half right there. So that would explain why this is potentially having some connection issues. And I don't think I'm going to be able to fix this one, unfortunately. But This cord actually looks like it's in pretty good shape, so I can reuse that on another one, and reuse this for spare parts, so that's at least helpful. The googly-eyed one. I've been wanting to check this one out to see if it was even fixable. The outside is toast for sure, but maybe the inside can be saved. That would be a very big no, since the board is cracked in multiple locations, and of course, it's also full of roach corpses too. Wonderful. Goodbye, my friend. My garbage needed to be changed anyway. Alright, this is an interesting one. So when you go up and down on the left stick, it actually turns you left and right, instead of it being forward and back. It's very strange. So I'm guessing there's some messed up connections on the board there, a couple bad solder connections, or potentially some broken traces on the board right there that I'm going to have to investigate a little bit further. Yeah, upon further inspection, it looks like there is a crack right here. And it looks like it extends all the way up into these three pieces, or these three connections right here. And what three connections are those? Those are the ones that control the left and right movement. And I'm guessing this one is fully connected, but they use some of the same connections through both of them. Unfortunately, I don't think this one's going to be able to get fixed either. I mean, I could patch it, but the odds of this breaking again is pretty high, and I just don't want to take that chance with somebody who gets this brand new, expecting it to work, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. So, unfortunately, I think this is another one that I use for scrap parts. So this is the one with the no connection issues that happen to have the bugs in it right here as well. And I also just noticed this one too has a big crack right here that comes down and extends through this entire section right there. Well, unfortunately, I think this one's toast too. So I plugged this one back in just to see if it would start up, and it isn't. It has no connection whatsoever, and I know that it had a connection before because I had swapped out the cord, and the cord was working for a split second and then stopped. My theory is that the capacitors just blew out on this because there was a little puff of smoke that just popped up from the backside, and it got really hot in a couple spots on the board. I'm not sure if that's indicative of the capacitors going bad, but at the same time, that would be the only thing that I can think of that could cause an issue like that, unless there was another short connection someplace on the back that caused some other issue. But I think this one's going to end up being scrap as well, or at least postponed till further notice. Alright, after it's all said and done, I have 8 extras after the Xboxes that I put together bundles for are done. So these were all just ones that had busted cords and just needed a brand new cord and then some cleaning. So these 3 have been cleaned, they're all good to go. These 3 have yet to be cleaned. They're still a little dirty. Some of these have deeper scratches than others, but all good to go. These I had to do double just to check on the cords. These needed cords, but then there was also other little random issues. Netted another 8, which is great. I may end up changing a few of the, like this one that has all the scratches and stuff. I may end up changing this one into a green controller or a blue controller because I have shells for those. And I have plenty of black S controllers now that are good. So I might do that just to squeeze a little bit more out of these. And then I also have 2 extra things that I can put online and sell separately instead of selling as bundles, which would be nice. But I'll think about that. We'll see if I want to do it. But I'm going to get these cleaned up, put them away, and then move on to something else. All right, here's some new stuff that I picked up locally. So I got all of these consoles. This one, I've already tested a few of these, but this one won't turn on. I've never really worked on PS3s before, especially fat ones. Like this is a really big fat one. This is an original model. And I'm not sure if I'll delve into that or not, but we'll see. And then I've got 2 Xbox 360s. This one's got a disc tray issue, which I think I can fix with just replacing the band. This one, it red rings, but it's the, I don't remember, is that called the Jasper version? I don't remember the original, but the original motherboard version, I'll put it on the screen or something like that right now. It didn't have an HDMI. So I don't know if I'm actually going to be fixing that one or not, just because it's not really good. But I got 3 NESs. All of these have really loose 72 pins. They have their doors. They do turn on, but they just don't really work very well. Then we've got a bunch of controllers with busted cables or cut cables. I think I actually have some replacement old cables from a smashed controller upstairs, so I'll have to look. Maybe I can resurrect these with those. Otherwise, I'm going to need to buy a few cables online. This one I already tested too. It moves all by itself all over the place. I don't know if there's something cracked inside of there, but could be the D-pad that's causing the issue or one of the thumbsticks, but haven't really opened up a lot of PS3 controllers. I'm not really a big PlayStation person. So then we have got some Xbox 360 controllers to go with the other ones that I already have sitting. I think these are just going to be ended up going into my bin of test sometime, because I have a whole bin of stuff that I have yet to get through, and it's massive. These, one of these has a bad charging port and it just won't turn on at all. The other one, I don't remember what the issue is. I think it was something with one of the bumper buttons, but I'll have to look into that again. But both of these are in pretty decent shape. They're just kind of dirty. And then a couple DS lights. So I'll have to look into these. I believe these also had a couple bumper issues up top. But yeah, so I've got a few more things to go through, which is fabulous. But we are approaching the end of this challenge, so it's kind of like I need to clear stuff so that I can get on to the next items. But I've gone through pretty much everything, and this is the new stuff that's left over, so I'll start working on some of this stuff at some point here, see what else I can get fixed. So this is kind of disappointing. This is the Game Gear that I just got in this month, and it doesn't turn on. That's to be expected. But I took another look at the screen, and unfortunately, it's probably toast. It has a huge screen burn on it, and that's why I needed one of these in the first place. So I guess I'm moving to a different one. This one is much better. Still has some cap issues, but no screen burn. The board is really clean too, which really helps when changing out caps. And after everything got swapped inside, it worked great. Now to swap the outside for one of my original blue shells that has some problems of its own. It's got some nasty corrosion on the inside that I have to take care of. I'm going to remove that front screen protector and get that cleaned first. I used one of the dental picks this time to remove the leftover adhesive, and it seemed to work slightly better than the little screwdriver I typically use. I didn't want to use sandpaper at first and thought a wire brush might be a good option to remove the corrosion since the shell had little speckles all inside of it. This worked okay for the big stuff, but the nooks and crannies, not so much. I moved on to some Scotch-Brite and that seemed to work well. They turned out pretty good, but I still have some staining and minor debris left. I cleaned them with IPA and taped them up so I could paint and seal off all of the affected areas. I had a few leftover cans of primer spray paint in the garage and I used those for this. It was a nice thick coat and I checked back a few days later to remove the tape. There was a little overspray in a few locations that I cleaned up with some IPA and Q-tips, but overall, I was pretty happy with the result. It felt flat and appeared to seal off those areas well, so they are no longer an issue. I got all the electronics installed and tested it again without any issues. The refresh got finished off with a flat glass screen protector, and that was it. I think it turned out great, so let's move on to some sales for the month before getting into the final numbers. Just sold another Xbox unit bundle for about 140 bucks. This one was in really good shape. It has some scratching right here, but this one basically had like almost everything new. So it doesn't have a clock cap. It has a brand new band on here. There's new board caps, controller with a new cable, and 2 new hookups for AV and power. So another one gone. Just sold another Xbox unit bundle for about 135 bucks. This one had the drive caps replaced. It was a Samsung drive and the other regular items that I do to it as well. And it had the hookups and a new controller with new cord and everything like that. So awesome. So just sold a few more items. This has been sitting around for a very long time and finally sold for about 60 bucks, this whole set. And this controller I recently had listed, and it had the weird melted section on the back, but this sold for about 29 bucks. Just sold this blue Xbox controller for about 30 bucks. Great. Hey, I just sold this Game Gear unit for about 240 bucks. I think this is the most expensive item that I've sold so far in this challenge, but this one was the one that was recapped, and it had the Ben screen replaced in here, and it's in pretty decent shape yet, so I was able to clean it up. It has some scratches yet, but it looks great, so fantastic. Just sold an Xbox bundle for about 140 bucks. Has the S controller with new thumbsticks, new cords. This had new caps, no clock cap, and a new disk drive band, if I remember correctly. And I just sold this other Duke controller for about 30 bucks as well. Just sold this controller with the new cord for about 35 bucks. Just sold this PS1 bundle for about 70 bucks. This one was the one that had a replaced laser, and I had a few extra of these regular controllers, so I just loaded up 2 of them in this one and get rid of a few extras. This is the last item sold for the month. Alright, last item sold of the month. Xbox bundle for about 135 bucks. Had new caps installed and a new drive band, and it's a 1.6 model, which and it's very clean as well. It came very clean. And then also a controller with brand new cord and regular attachment cords there as well. So, good way to end the month. Only 2 months left in this challenge, and I'm happy I'm still making some good progress. Hopefully that continues into next month, but we'll see since I have some planned time off. Thanks for watching, and if you've made it this far, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.